Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Armchair Athletes live stream. We are setting your lineups ahead of week 12 as we have kickoff in about 50 minutes. I'm trying to make a routine of this. I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit hoarse. We streamed for a little over 2 hours yesterday, and I'm trying to build up that endurance, streaming more each week. I think we're up to like 3 or 4 times a week. So, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, where I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and of course, I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comment section below. Before we get started today, folks, make sure you go down in our description and follow us on all social media platforms. We have a Twitter, we have an Instagram, and we have a Facebook where we keep you updated constantly, not only on this channel, but on the fantasy world in general. If you are confident in your sports research like I am, make sure you join Underdog Fantasy by hitting the link in the description. Use promo code Corey, 0410, so that's CORY 0410 to get your deposit matched dollar for dollar up to $100. It's a great app. Lets you guess overs and unders on different players. How many yards will Terry McLaurin have today? Over or under 60 against the Falcons. That type of thing. And it gives you constant fantasy updates. There is a Rivals tab where you can also pin two players up against each other. So let's say we've got Terry McLaurin versus Tyler Algier total yards. You could totally do something like that if that's an option. Be smart with your money, of course. I understand gambling addiction is very serious. I always want to preface that here. I set apart a small amount of my money for the month, and I don't go beyond it. So that's one strategy I use. But of course, there's always resources if you do have trouble with that. I just wanted to give all of you an opportunity to have your deposit match. That's pretty cool. You put 50 in, you're able to play with 100, so you're already up, and you can kind of play with that extra money and try and win off it. You can do different parlays. It's got to be at least 2 consecutive picks. Also, before we get going today, folks, make sure you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube short series we have going on. We did quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends heading into this week. And after I give you a couple of last-minute updates ahead of week 12, not only am I going to answer your questions, but I'm actually going to be giving all of you updates on different matchups that I would definitely try and expose, some of which were talked about last night. So if you're here last night, it's going to be a little bit of a redundant spiel, but if there's new questions, I can answer those as well. We've got Tino in the chat. We've got Brian in the chat. Appreciate both of you creeping up to 300 subs. Awesome job. Got to try and get Corey to 300. Yeah, super excited, guys. We just got to 200 at the end of October, so it's taken about a month to get that next step. We're almost there. We're 10 away, so if you're just dropping in, make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. I do stream a couple of times a week, and I do informative YouTube shorts pretty much every day of the week to try and get you as much research-based info as possible. So Brian, Tino, and anybody else dropping in the chat, first off, thank you. But second off, make sure you drop your fantasy football questions in the chat, and we'll take care of you guys for sure. Let's go over a few important updates. Justin Fields is officially out. Coach Eberflus called him a long shot to play, and then he got confirmed about 30 minutes ago via ESPN that he will not be playing. So it's going to be the Trevor Siemian show. Jets coach Robert Saleh made sure to issue a warning when Justin Fields' status was up in the balance that the Jets will go after and hit Justin Fields. That tells me the Jets were probably playing tight press man and a lot of cover 1 and cover 0 where they make sure that Fields sits in the pocket and has to deliver a throw with the anticipation of being hit. I mean, I could see a lot of teams doing tight press man against the wide receiving core of the Bears right now. It's not great. I love Darnell Mooney. I love Chase Claypool, but there are definitely better options out there. Maybe they still do that with Trevor Siemian in. He's not mobile and hasn't been able to get a ton of first-team reps until this week. And even so, we didn't really know if Fields is going to be out until about an hour ago. So that's definitely something to consider. We have Joe Mixon. We're going to update you on him next. He is also out. That's a Samaje Perine sub then. He's going up against the Titans defense, and I will preface this. The Titans' rush defense is pretty solid. They're allowing less than 4 yards per carry. So we're going to look for Perine's pass-catching performance. That's going to heavily dictate whether or not he performs for your fantasy team. So it puts a little more pressure on that aspect of his game. If you have someone with a better matchup who has receiving upside as well, I would turn towards them ahead of Perine, since Perine is facing a pretty tough rush defense, pretty tough front seven in the Titans. This one we already knew. It's been the headline of the week. Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White is going to be in. He's going to be getting more reps than he's ever had before. I mean, he went 22 for 105 against Seattle not too long ago. It's going to be Rachaad White today against the Browns. We get to see how valid he really is. He has a great opportunity against a Cleveland team that is bottom 5 in yards per carry allowed with 4.8. Let's go to the next guy. We're going to stay in the backfield with Josh Jacobs. He is questionable, but we're leaning in. He's expected to play. I was looking on the ESPN Fantasy app, and that's what I was getting from that. Expected to play against the Seahawks. For those of you in deeper leagues, you're going to want to pick up Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah. They are the backups for Jacobs. They should get a look or two considering Jacobs' status is still technically up in the air on a Sunday morning. Like I said, he's supposed to play. He does have that West Coast game against the Seahawks, so it's going to be 3:25 Central Time when he plays. I'm leaning in, but if you're in a deeper league, like a really deep league or a dynasty league, go ahead and go get Brandon Bolden or Amir Abdullah and kind of go from there. They should get usage even if Jacobs does play, which it looks like he will. Anytime somebody's questionable Saturday night, Sunday morning, probably means they're going to be on somewhat of a pitch count. Last one, and this one kind of came in last night. Jamar Chase is out, so this is going to give T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, Tyler Boyd, and of course, Samaje Perine opportunity in the passing game. Let's look at some great matchups that I really want to highlight. Jeff Wilson Jr. against the Houston Texans. The Texans are allowing over 4.5 yards per carry this year. They are extremely vulnerable in the run defensive game. They are also probably going to lose that game to a Dolphins team that has a high-flying offense. So game script-wise, look for Jeff Wilson Jr. to get plenty of touches late. Terry McLaurin against the Atlanta Falcons secondary. That is a match made in heaven. McLaurin is really coming to his own. Him and Heineke are establishing some rapport. Curtis Samuel getting some touches as well. That's another one to look for. Atlanta, I mean, even in deeper leagues, I would not rule out starting Heineke against that Atlanta secondary. It's bottom 10 in pass yards allowed. They allow a decent amount of passing touchdowns as well. Really good matchup. And lastly, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are bottom 10 in passing yards allowed as well. They are one of the most vulnerable defenses when it comes to wide receivers, pass catching backs, and quarterbacks. So we love those three moves. We love Wilson Jr. against Houston. We love McLaurin against Atlanta, and we love Metcalf and Lockett against Las Vegas. If you're in a deeper league or if you're kind of in a bind for tight ends, you could go after a Noah Fant as well against Las Vegas. I think it's going to be a pass-heavy scheme early on. Only thing you got to be careful with is if Seattle goes up big against that struggling Las Vegas team, it's going to go run-heavy, and then it's a Kenneth Walker the third day. So it should be a good overall day for the offense of the Seattle Seahawks. We've got Lucius in here asking the first question. Good morning, my man. We've got, is Hollywood on a pitch count today, deciding to start between him and Donovan Peoples-Jones? I know the weather is gusty in Cleveland. Yes, I saw that. I believe I did see last night that Mr. Let's see what we got going on here. I believe Hollywood Brown is on a pitch count because he hasn't played since week 6. If we go in here, I'll let you guys into my league. I saw last night that there was a plan of Kingsbury to put him on a pitch count. And if that's still the case, then I'm probably going Donovan Peoples-Jones against that secondary. Yep. So right here, this is for Lucius. We've got the Cardinals finally have the wide receiver duo of DeAndre Hopkins and Brown available. While that is great, oh, sure, Paige, just refresh on me. Kingsbury said Brown will likely be on a pitch count of sorts in his first action since week 6. Typically going to happen when we don't see a guy for over a month. It was on the IR. So, yep, we're going to go probably with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I know the weather is gusty in Cleveland. I think even with a pitch count, I don't know, because the Cardinals do run a lot of plays. We don't know how much of a pitch count it's going to be. But then again, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's going to be in gusty weather. It's going to rain a little bit. I think Brissett still slings it. The lines aren't too low on Brissett. It's 228.5 yards via Prize Picks and, I believe, Underdog as well. I was looking at both of those lines. I think there will be enough throws. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Lucius is riding on 5 consecutive double-digit performances, so good on you for going and grabbing him. That's the number one thing I've emphasized on this channel over the course of the last couple of weeks. So let's go with DPJ just because Brown is on a pitch count. That could be 15 snaps. It could be 25 snaps. We don't know. So we know Donovan Peoples-Jones is playing. Yes, the conditions aren't optimal, but that's all he really has against him. At least we know he is playing a decent amount of snaps as the wide receiver too. Richard Hernandez, full PPR. Need a running back and a flex. We're looking Perine, Boyd, and Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray going up against that Panthers team. If we look at the strength of the opposition, and again, if we look at the game script, I couldn't really tell you who's going to win this game between the Broncos and the Panthers. I would lean Broncos. No way to really know. Carolina's middle of the pack, allowing 4.5 yards a carry. I do think game script-wise, Latavius Murray is going to get a decent amount of touches. So for our running back, Yeah, that's going to be tough. I do think P. Ryan's going to have a tough day against the Titans. If you look at the Titans, they are top of this list, allowing 3.9 yards a carry. We need P. Ryan to get heavily involved in the passing game against a team that's allowing less than 4 yards per carry. That's at least my opinion on this entire thing. Yeah. So I'm, then again, Latavius Murray is 32, and Kieran Williams could get a decent amount of touches. Boyd is definitely your flex, in my opinion. We need one certified pass catcher in our flex, and, well, Boyd's the only wide receiver here. So that's probably where I'd go with that. I am probably going Boyd for sure, and then between P. Ryan and Latavius. Yeah, because it's full point PPR, or full PPR. Latavius has the better matchup, and we don't know with confidence. We don't know with confidence in either of these matchups, but we don't know with confidence that the Bengals are going to be in a position to run the ball late. They may have to go throw heavy. The Titans are a very good team. You know, they had a bye last year. Many people forget that. I thought the Colts were going to win that South Division, but they just aren't right now. Let's go Latavius, and let's go Boyd. Trevor Siemian hurt himself in warmups. I'll look at the rest of the chat here in just a second. Do want to promote one thing. So a few of you mentioned we are coming up on 300 subscribers. Thank you all so much for your support. It means the world. Not too long ago, this channel was sitting dormant at 100. I kind of wanted to hone in my focus on fantasy football because it's something I feel like I have a decent amount of knowledge in, and I wanted to help others with. Wanted to show others my strategic approach on a week-by-week basis, and consequently, I've been having my best year yet with fantasy because I have focused so much on picking apart these players in these situations. I do want to drop this in the chat. Somebody who is approaching or just got 500 subscribers, Tino's time, you'll see him in the chat. He is doing a raffle on Thursday to do a couple of giveaways, and he'll expand more on that. But here's a link, you'll see it in the chat, to his channel. He's doing a raffle. I believe he's giving away a couple of objects, possibly a t-shirt. I might have seen that as well. He's just doing a big giveaway at 500 subscribers. So in order to enter that, make sure you hit that link. This stream is going to die at about 11:50, 11:55, right before the noon kickoff slate for Central Time. So I just wanted to drop Tino's stuff in there. All right, so Richard, yeah, I am going Boyd and Murray because Murray's got the better matchup, and Boyd, well, we need a pass catcher in our flex and full PPR because we know for a fact they're going to go out and get some. And with Jamar not in there, Boyd is still the wide receiver too. Lucius, last question. Would you go Foster Moreau or Hayden Hurst, half-point PPR? Let's look at target usage, Lucius. I'm leaning Hayden Hurst now that we do know Jamar will not be in today. And we also have to keep in mind strength of opposition. I did say the Titans have a phenomenal rush defense. Their pass defense is the exact opposite. Tennessee, third worst in the league in terms of pass yards allowed at 267. We've got to think that Hayden Hurst is going to get a decent chunk of that. And if we look at Hayden Hurst from a snaps per target perspective, which just means, yes, he has less targets than Tyler Boyd, but he's technically, when on the field, getting the ball more often, getting the ball thrown his way more often, also has a better catch percentage, as most tight ends do. Hayden Hurst gets plenty of opportunity, especially with Jamar Chase out. Hasn't had the most targets as of late, which is a little concerning. Let's look at Foster Moreau. What he has going for him is the Raiders just lose a ton of football games. So it's a throw-heavy scheme in the second half more times than not. I'm going to make sure I don't have like 5 billion tabs open so I can find things quickly here for you guys. This always happens with the Raiders. You have to manually click on it. This is a great website, by the way. FantasySP.com tells you, well, right here, how many targets is everybody getting. You can kind of calculate their target percentage here. These are the amount of throws we've had. So 112 out of 274. Devontae is getting the ball about 40% of the time thrown his way, which is pretty cool. Then you can see the most recent games in the parentheses, last 4 games. Devontae's gotten it 13, 14, 17, and 5 times. Amount of snaps, catch rate. You can get pretty much everything you want from a deep dive perspective Other than snap count percentage, you would just look up the team name and then player snap count or something along those lines. So Foster Moreau getting a decent amount of action. He is going up against the Seattle secondary. I would say that because Hayden Hurst still is probably going to operate as the 2/3 with Jamar Chase out, and he's going up against a weaker secondary in Tennessee. This is for Lucius. I am going Hayden Hurst. I think he'll get the volume. It's half-point PPR, so we don't have as much of an emphasis on catches. We just want those yards. Hayden Hurst is going to do well in that category, so I'm going Hayden Hurst. Brian Pereira, I don't remember if I asked you last night, but who would you rather start, Njoku or Ingram for tight end PPR? Let's look here. Njoku or Ingram. We know Njoku is going up against a pretty tough secondary, coming off of an injury against the Bucks. Let's look at the target use percentage for Evan Ingram. And if you guys are just dropping in, make sure that you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. We are 10 subs away from 300. Super thankful for all of you, and I just want to do everything I can to help all of you out ahead of week 12 here. We've got about 35 minutes, so the clock is ticking. I was going back and forth on this yesterday. This is for Brian. It's not coming up for some reason. There we go. If we go here, Evan Ingram seems to be option number 3 at the moment. Marvin Jones not getting nearly as many. But if we look, again, snaps per target, Marvin Jones is actually getting the ball more often. So something to consider there. And you got to consider sample size. Like Jamal Agnew technically is getting a target for every 4 snaps, which would be better than everyone on this list, but he's not on the field a whole lot. So Evan Ingram, or David Njoku. There is gusty winds. Multiple people are trying to point that out for me. So Nathan Peterman is starting for the Bears instead of Trevor Siemian. That's beautiful. That's great. He was just activated from the practice squad, so if that tells you how many first team reps he's been getting, it's absolutely none. Big David Montgomery day, you gotta hope. But the Jets will probably go press man, cover 1, cover 0, and just sell out on the run. So maybe stay away from Bears players today. We'll have to see. Jaguars going up against a Ravens team that has a pretty weak secondary, and then we already know Njoku has probably a tougher matchup against the Bucks, and we've got the weather element as well. Let's see here. This is PPR as well. We're just going to want somebody who's getting more targets in general as of late. We have Evan Ingram having 12 in the last 3 games. If we look at the involvement of David Njoku, I know he only had 3 before, and he is operating behind Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. However, those tight ends aren't running as many deep routes. I think Ingram has been more consistent, especially with the weather element. You already have a run-heavy team, Brian, in the Browns who love to use Nick Chubb. And if we look here, another stat I love to use, everyone, run-pass ratio in the NFL. The 3 aspects we love to focus on here at Armchair Athletes are availability, opportunity, and productivity. Availability relating to health. Opportunity, how many times has this person seen the ball? Productivity, what are they doing when they have the ball in their hands? And if we look from the opportunity perspective, if we're looking at the Browns, up top are the teams that run the ball the most. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th most rush-heavy offense in the league. They only pass the ball 51% of the time. Are the Cleveland Browns. You throw the weather element in there and the fact that Njoku is probably the 3rd option, Brian. I'm going to go Evan Ingram. It's a more pass-heavy offense. In the Jaguars, they don't have the weather element, and Trevor's probably going to spread the ball out a little bit more, whereas you have a team that's really leaning on Nick Chubb as of late, and Kareem Hunt, and then you have Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones just tearing it up. Not sure there's going to be a ton of room for Njoku within those weather elements. Got some more questions in the chat here. Jim896, welcome in. PPR, we're starting 1 out of DJ Moore, Demarcus Robinson, and Allen Lazard. I know for a fact Demarcus Robinson is questionable at the moment. Devin Duvernay should go. I haven't seen any updates on Demarcus Robinson, so let me look at that before I get you an answer. Appreciate all of you hopping in the chat. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe as we are getting you this last-second information. Demarcus Robinson cleared to play for Week 12. There's our answer. We're getting you this last-second information, last-minute information, ahead of the noon kickoff slate here. I keep saying noon because it's Central Time. Wherever you are. If you're Eastern Time, it's 1. Mountain time would be 11. Pacific time would be 10. I think I did that right. But make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. We're almost at 300. Trying to grow this audience as much as possible. Trying to help all of you out as much as possible. And again, we do have a promo code with Underdog Fantasy, guys. If you go in the description right now, there is a link for Underdog Fantasy. You can get your deposit match dollar for dollar. You just type in Corey0410. It's my birthday, so CORY0410. I'm going to try and change that code to Armchair. I have to pull some strings for that. But you'll get your deposit, whatever you put in between $10 and $100, you will get it matched dollar for dollar. So if you put in $50, you're going to end up with $100 to work for. You'll be in the green to start the day, and then you can kind of use that money sparingly. And you could lose $40 and still be up 10 from when you started the day because Underdog has such a great deal with that. So make sure you sign up with that through our promo code. It would help us out a ton. So Demarcus Robinson cleared to play a gym. Allen Lazard, the wide receiver one, but he's probably going to have Darius Slay shadowing him. The wide receiving core of the Packers doesn't scare me too much, so I would imagine the Eagles play man. And then you have DJ Moore. Sorry, I blanked for a second. DJ Moore going up against a really tough Broncos secondary that is, I believe, allowing, I think they're top 3 in pass yards allowed. They are third with 187 yards. So really tough matchup for Mr. DJ Moore. Demarcus Robinson just got cleared. Allen Lazard, tough matchup. We've got some tough options here to work with, Jim. So we're just going to try and take the lesser of 3 evils. It's a run-heavy offense in Baltimore. It has been since Lamar got there. Against the Jags. That's a secondary that can give up a decent amount. I'm going to go Demarcus Robinson. I think Allen Lazard, A, he is probably going to be lining up against Darius Slay, which is usually jail time for wide receivers. And B, the weakness, the Achilles heel of that Philadelphia Eagles defense is the run defense. You're probably going to see a lot of Aaron Jones. So there's not going to be as much of a focus on Lazard. And when the ball is thrown his way, he's going to be covered likely by Darius Slay or CJ Gardner-Johnson. Not very optimal. DJ Moore has a super tough matchup against the Broncos, who are top 3 in passing yards allowed. We've also got Sam Darnold in there, so we really have to ask ourselves how reliable is this whole situation. Demarcus Robinson has the best matchup against that Jaguars secondary that is going to allow a decent amount of yards through the air. I think Lamar will find him. Super CNB, good to see you, man. Need a running back 2, wide receiver 2, and a flex for PPR. We have Michael Pittman, Chris Olave, Michael Carter, David Montgomery, Tyler Boyd, and Mike Evans with the rain in Cleveland. So I've got people telling me the rain is an issue, but then last night people were saying it was drizzling a little. I'm assuming it's a mix of the rain and wind. Mike Evans with the rain in Cleveland. It's a very pass-heavy offense, CNB, but I'd never really like to fight with Mother Nature. So we might steer Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is the main guy there anyway when we look at a snaps per target perspective for fantasy. Running back 2, wide receiver 2, and a flex. The flex, we're probably going to want to go with the pass catcher. We know Jamar is still out, so I'm liking Tyler Boyd for this week. I know he was my sell going into this week, one of my sells, but then we learned that Jamar is still out. So let's go Tyler Boyd against that Titans secondary that is bottom 3 in pass yards allowed with over 265. Dave Montgomery's going to get the ball a ton with Nathan Peterman in there. How well will he do? I'm not sure. I really do think you're going to hear this a lot if you watch the Bears-Jets game. Cover 0 man, cover 1 man, press man. You're going to see a heavy emphasis on the run. It's no secret that the Bears run the ball more than anybody else. I think I've heard it brought up in every broadcast so far. I think David Montgomery is still going to be able to get a couple of catches. Peterman, typically with a backup quarterback, they're going to go the tight end route, and they're going to go the check down to the running back route. I think Montgomery has a decent day, so let's go. Oh, Michael Carter against the Bears. The Bears have pretty much sold off their front 7. No more Roquan Smith. No more Robert Quinn. Michael Pittman with a high-volume passer in Matt Ryan. I love Chris Olave. People are giving him a lot of crap. He's very consistent. He's top 15 right now. Does have a tough matchup against the 49ers. What to do. It's full PPR, so we want somebody getting a lot of targets. Let's go Pittman against the Steelers for our wide receiver 2. For our running back 2, we're between Michael Carter and David Montgomery, so they're facing each other. I'm thinking Michael Carter's going to have a better day. David Montgomery's going up against a better rush defense, and with a backup quarterback in there, it's no secret. They're going to bring the house to either A, stuff the run, or B, put a ton of pressure on Nathan Peterman. I can't believe he's starting today. I'm a Bears fan, by the way, so that's just great news that we're down to our 3rd-string quarterback. Might as well tank at this point. That's probably what they're doing. And then we have, so we're going Michael Carter for our running back 2. For our wide receiver 2, we're going Michael Pittman. I think I'm going Tyler Boyd against that really weak Titans secondary. I know it's crazy to take technically a wide receiver 3 on that team, but Jamar's not in there, over Chris Olave. Chris Olave's got to face a really tough secondary in the San Francisco 49ers. So Super CNB, we are going Michael Carter for your running back 2, Tyler Boyd for your wide receiver 2, and Tyler Boyd for your wide receiver 2. And then for your flex, let's go Michael Pittman. Okay. And again, if you see evidence out there that refutes it, that's fine, but I'm just going off strength of opposition and situation for sure. Glad that most of you are mentioning the rain and the wind. That's kind of making me steer away from Mike Evans in this situation. And the secondary of Cleveland, they're not scrubs. I mean, the team has only won 3 games this year, but it's not because of the secondary. It's mainly because of that run defense, actually. Finstrom, good to see you in here. Debo or Evans PPR with the Cleveland weather. It's tough because Demo's got a hammy injury. How much do we really want to rely on that? Especially considering they can work with Christian McCaffrey. They can work with, Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle. Is he on a pitch count? That's what I'm looking for right now. I really just want to lean Debo if he's playing. I know I just mentioned all those reasons that Debo and Cam Jordan are expected to play. Okay. Not that Cam Jordan matters. I just read a headline. Let's go Debo. Expected to play. There's plenty of other pieces that can be operated with, but the Saints defense is pretty weak over the course of the last few weeks. They've given up their fair share of points. I just don't want to fight that weather. We don't know what it's like in Cleveland right now. I'm not in Cleveland. I'm kind of close to it. I'm a few hours away. But let's go Debo. He's got the run involvement as well, so even if the 49ers go up big, which I think they could, Debo's going to get some snaps in the backfield too. Babchat, before you end this quick stream, I am thinking of streaming a special teams today. Would you compare Broncos versus 49ers, mine, versus Chiefs? Chiefs and Broncos have the easier matchup, but I have been burned by that. Broncos, you just never know what you're going to get. However, the Broncos do have a great pass defense. It's probably going to be a run-heavy scheme, so we're basically going to be asking ourselves here, how will Deontay Foreman do? The Chiefs allow points. They just do. I know the Rams have a lot of people out, one of which being Cooper Kupp, one of the most productive wide receivers we have seen in the last decade from a fantasy football perspective, especially just from a volume perspective. He gets the ball in his hands so many times. I'm okay with 49ers versus Saints. I think they do their job. They don't allow a whole lot of points, and they do force a decent amount of turnovers. From there, I would go Broncos, and then Chiefs would be a last resort. You just never know. That team gives up a lot of points regardless of who they really play against. You never really see them shut somebody down. They have a great opportunity today. It's a bruised-up team over there in Los Angeles. If you wanted to stream, go with the Broncos. Otherwise, I'm okay with that 49ers matchup, Babjap. Let's not stretch too far for an easier matchup, because I think you could get burned if you go the Chiefs route. Kevin says, dude, you cannot make up this Bears news. That's their luck. That's the entire franchise's luck. Kevin, us Bears fans are dying. Agreed. Olave or Boyd, standard. Was just going over this before. I think Boyd has the easier matchup, Richard. He's going up against the Titans defense that's bottom 3 in the league in pass yards allowed. Jamar is still not there, so it's probably going to go T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, and then Tyler Boyd. Or T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and then Hayden Hurst. Yes, Olave gets plenty of volume. I do think that Tyler Boyd gets a decent amount of looks. And it's standard, so we're not really worried about amount of receptions. We want somebody with an easier defense who, even if they only get 3 or 4 receptions, is going to be able to get plenty of yak or yards after catch. Because it's standard, I'm leaning Boyd. If it was PPR, I might lean Olave, but like I said before, I still think with Boyd having a much more optimal matchup, he could really have a great day, especially with Jamar still being out. Richard, let's go Boyd over Olave. Kevin says, imagine waiting for your opportunity that may never arrive and then hurting yourself warming up. Trevor Siemian had a decent amount of snaps when he was playing for, was it the Broncos? Not the best matchup or not the best situation to be in either. He's kind of taken the Jay Cutler route, right? He was on the Broncos at first, and then he's over on the Bears. I know there were teams in between, but Boyd, Richard. Yeah, Tino's saying Boyd as well. A-Game, Grizzo, DPJ, or Burks, PPR. Let's go Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's been streaking five double-digit performances in a row. High catch percentage. He's been a reliable target for Jacoby Brissett. Even in that weather, I think with Treylon Burks, he had one good game, which is fine. Let's not call him A.J. Brown yet. I know he is like one of the only, if not the only pass catcher on that team with yards. I have to check this. It's been a couple weeks since I checked this, but via next-gen stats, having over 2 yards of separation. Like, Robert Woods can't separate himself from anybody. Nobody else on that team has been able to. Westbrook has been getting open a little bit more, so maybe him. I'm going DPJ with the consistency. I know that I'm saying we don't want to fight the weather too much, but Burks is in such a run-heavy offense with Derrick Henry. We just don't know. So I'm going DPJ. TT Warrior 1, welcome in. We're starting 3 in PPR out of Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, Joshua Palmer, and Amari Cooper. Now, if we have this big of a pool, I mean, Rashad White, Josh Jacobs, and Amari Cooper, I know it's going to sound like, and Joshua Palmer, I know it's going to sound like I just contradicted myself with what A-Game Grizzo said with DPJ and Burks. Everybody who I just named, and Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, Joshua Palmer, and Amari Cooper, those guys are all better than Treylon Burks and have had a more consistent pass, greater target usage. So now I will use the weather as an excuse because we do have... will I, though? Because we have Rashad White, who has a decent matchup. We have Josh Jacobs. If Josh Jacobs plays, which it looks like he will, he should do fine. You just need to make sure that Las Vegas doesn't get blown out because then Jacobs isn't going to get the ball. Joshua Palmer's going to operate as a wide receiver 2 behind Keenan Allen because Mike Williams is out and he's going up against the Cardinals. I love Joshua Palmer. So let's go Joshua Palmer for sure. Let's go Rashad White. He's got 20 receptions in limited action, so I think he'll have a nice pass-catching role, even though there is some rain out there. So now we're between Josh Jacobs and Amari Cooper. Because it is PPR, I actually might still lean Amari Cooper. He is the number 1 choice. I know it's weird. I've leaned DPJ in a decision. I've leaned Amari Cooper. I understand there's some rain. Those guys are crazy good. All you need, especially in PPR, is a couple screen passes, get them out in the open field, and some crazy stuff can happen. So I'd be sitting Josh Jacobs because we do want a pass catcher. We want as many pass catchers as we can possibly have. And yes, Josh Jacobs will go out and catch some passes, but more times than not, Amari Cooper is going to have more receptions as he is the wide receiver 1 and a pretty dang good one. Tino says sit Jacobs out of the 4. I agree. Screwed Video says, can't believe I'm asking this, but should I start Cortland Sutton or Deebo Samuel? It's a valid ask. Cortland Sutton going up against the Panthers. Deebo Samuel going up against the Saints. Deebo, again, just being questionable until not too long ago. If you look at this headline, we just got note that Deebo Samuel is playing, just a couple of hours ahead of his kickoff. So not too thrilled about that. Oh, that was 5 hours ago, but it is a constantly updating headline. So, it seems like a silly ask, but with Jerry Jeudy still out, it's definitely a fair one. We are at 293 subscribers I see right now, guys. Thank you all so much. 7 away. If we could reach it today, cool. Otherwise, I know we'll get it in the middle of next week with all of your support. You all have been phenomenal. Make sure you leave a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you take advantage of that. What is it? Oh, my goodness. Oh, sorry. I'm just, clearing a ton of notifications right now. Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you take advantage of that link in the description. Corey0410. CORY0410. Have your deposit matched. You put in 10, you're working with 20. You put in 50, you're working with 100, all the way up to $100. Be modest with your betting. Be careful. Addiction's a huge thing, but definitely a deal that I think we should all be taking advantage of. So Deebo or Sutton, this is for Screwed Videos. Or do I sit Evans and start Deebo and Sutton? Evans in the weather with those options. Deebo, there's so many options there in general. With CMC, with Elijah Mitchell, with Brandon Ayuk, with George Kittle. We just don't know if Deebo's really going to get that much action coming off an injury. Maybe he does have a pitch count we're not hearing about. We don't have to know that. Sometimes coaches will come out and say they're on a pitch count, but we don't really have to know. So maybe he will be and we don't know about it. I am going Cortland Sutton, believe it or not, because Jerry Jeudy is out. Let's see if there's anybody else out. I'm pretty sure KJ Hamler's out as well. And he is. Cortland Sutton's going to be the number 1 against a Panthers team that it's not great in general. I don't think the Broncos are going to blow out the Panthers. I don't think the Broncos are capable of blowing anybody out. So in all honesty, I'm going to say we go with Cortland Sutton with Jerry Jeudy out. It should be a throw-heavy / balanced scheme for the most part. Broncos are middle of the pack in terms of run-pass percentage. So for Screwed Videos, let's go. It's a really nice logo, by the way. I love the SV little gradient with the blue and the gray. Maybe it's not a gradient, but that's what I can see from here. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton and Deebo. Excuse me. Cortland Sutton over Deebo. Evans, even in the weather, I think that Deebo has too many other people to compete with. He was just questionable until a few hours ago. Let's go Cortland Sutton, and let's go Mike Evans. Jelly of the month, welcome back. Good morning. PPR, we've got Nick Chubb, Rashad White, or Aaron Jones. I need one. Other running back starting would be Jeff Wilson. Playing versus Henry. Ooh, playing versus Derrick Henry. PPR, Chubb, Rashad White, or Aaron Jones. Chubb going up against the Bucks. In that rain, he should get a decent amount of touches. Rashad White going the other way. Those two are facing each other also in the rain. He's a decent pass catcher. Aaron Jones against the Eagles. The Eagles allow over 4.5 yards per carry. They by far have the weakest run defense out of the three teams I'm mentioning right now. Actually, no, they don't. It's pretty much potato in between the Cleveland Browns run defense and the Eagles run defense. Let's go Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's in the rain. It's already a run-heavy offense to begin with. I know I keep using the rain back and forth. It depends on the context, right? If we're talking about DPJ or Treylon Burks, I'm taking DPJ regardless. It could be a monsoon. I think they'll find a way to get him the ball. Thanks for the help. No problem, man. Other running back starting is Jeff Wilson. Good job starting Jeff Wilson from a game script perspective. We all know that the Dolphins should win that game by a heaping amount as long as they don't go up by 40. I was looking at a prop earlier for 80 rushing yards on Jeff Wilson. It's like, do we really want to go with that? Because what if the Dolphins are up 40 and then we get our backups? Anytime backups are put in during a blowout, that really kills player props. Let's go Nick Chubb. Rashad White is going up against a decently weak defense, but I think it's really hard to go against Chubb in back-to-back weeks. Aaron Jones and Rashad White are both solid options. I would go Chubb, then White, then Jones. Chubb and White are A and B. Chubb's going to get the most usage in my opinion. White is going up against the weaker of the two defenses, but Chubb is an established back who I think can power through it. White has the weaker matchup, but he is inefficient in his small sample size, averaging under 4 yards a carry. Let's go Nick Chubb. Good luck to you, Jelly of the Month. Screwed videos. Oh, we talked about that already with Evans, Debo, and Sutton. Richard asking, Taylor Heineke or Matt Ryan, full PPR. Matt Ryan going against the Steelers defense. Taylor Heineke going up against Atlanta. You know, those are two names that aren't, they're not great. They're not people that we're going to look at and go, oh, I'm so glad I'm choosing between these two. But if we look at their matchups, they are great. This is the matchup for Matt Ryan. He is a high-volume passer. The least amount of times he has thrown a football in a game this year is 28, if I am correct. His matchup is Pittsburgh, second worst in passing yards allowed per game. Taylor Heineke going up against Atlanta, been notorious for having an abysmal secondary. Although Atlanta in the last 3 games has not been allowing a whole lot of pass yards. Justin Fields is going to skew that because the Bears are so run-heavy, so we really don't want to pay too much attention to that. So I'm probably going to go Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's a more high-volume passer. It's more checkdowns with Heineke, and there still is a heavy usage between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. I think that Matt Ryan has more opportunity against a weaker defense in the Steelers, and I don't see a scenario where the Colts beat the brakes off the Steelers and go run heavy in the second half. I really don't. If that happens, this whole thing gets turned on its head. Heineke against the Falcons. The Falcons do have a weak secondary, but I feel like Matt Ryan, the 2016 MVP, he's more capable of airing it out against a weak defense. Heineke is still a great player. Wonderful story. Super happy for him taking over that starting spot. I think he'll do well. But I like the Matt Ryan move a little bit more due to high volume and a more established player against a weaker matchup. Kills 5K, welcome in. Yo, we were looking between Christian Kirk and Tyler Boyd. Okay. Christian Kirk or Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's going up against the Titans. He's going to operate as the wide receiver too with Jamar still out. Definitely something to like. On the flip side, we have the Jaguars against the Ravens, another team that's allowing plenty of passing yards. Again, if we look, Tennessee, bottom 3. Baltimore, bottom 6 in passing yards per game allowed. And again, that's not just it. If we're looking PPR, we want somebody who's going to get a decent amount of volume too. And that's just why I'm going to take this. I'm assuming this is PPR, kills 5K. I'm going Christian Kirk. I'm going the wide receiver 1 against a pretty vulnerable defense in the Baltimore Ravens. Give me Christian Kirk over Tyler Boyd 9 times out of 10. Hayden Mayer, Aaron Jones, Michael Carter, or Rashad White, full PPR. Aaron Jones, Michael Carter, or Rashad White. I think I had a similar question to this before. Aaron Jones, Rashad White, or Nick Chubb, and I took Chubb. Michael Carter's got a pretty good matchup against the Bears front seven. If we look at a yards per carry, if we look at just strength of opposition, again, 3 aspects we want to look at: availability, opportunity, and productivity for each fantasy player, but we also want to look at strength of opposition. Chicago, one of the worst rush defenses in the league, and it makes a lot of sense after selling off Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. They are allowing 4.7 yards per carry. Aaron Jones also has a very nice matchup against the Eagles. That's their one Achilles heel. It's how a lot of teams are going to try and beat them, 4.6 yards per carry. We saw the Commanders go run heavy. I think Aaron Jones gets a lot of touches. Michael Carter being kind of thrusted into a running back 1 role. I just want to check the Jets depth chart really quick. 10 minutes to kick off. Going to hop off the stream in a few minutes because I know your lineups will lock. I just want to make sure I answer all of your questions. Yeah, Michael Carter. James Robinson's out, so Ty Johnson's the backup. I am thinking we go Aaron Jones and we go Rachaad White. Rachaad White's got a nice matchup against Cleveland. He's a decent pass catcher in the small sample size we've seen of him. Aaron Jones, the key to victory is going to have to be running into him. And we even saw teams like the Texans run the ball when down multiple possessions to the Eagles because they just don't want to challenge that secondary. So I think big day for Aaron Jones, big day for Rachaad White. I like Rachaad White just a little bit more with the pass catching upside. Thanks for the help. No problem. No problem. Kills saying Christian Kirk or Tyler Boyd. Yeah, I'm going Christian Kirk. I needed to know this, bro. Thanks so much. No problem. Kills 5K. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Homer Simpson. I love the name. Unless this is the real Homer Simpson, then happy to be in your presence. Kamara against the 49ers or Garrett Wilson, Boyd, Hollywood. Pick one. Half-point PPR. Garrett Wilson's going to be interesting. We have Mike White in there. I was listening to another stream yesterday. Let's just sit back and watch Mike White play and enjoy it. I don't want to put a ton of pressure on somebody we haven't seen perform in over a year. He had a 400-yard performance before. Could go well with Garrett Wilson against the Bears. Bears secondary is actually pretty decent for the most part. It's the front seven that's been tough. I think that Michael Carter will have a decent day. But not better than Rachaad White and Aaron Jones, as I just said, due to heavy involvement and weaker opposition. Kamara against the 49ers, I think, can do decent. Tyler Boyd being the wide receiver, too, makes me happy. And then Hollywood Brown is going to be on a pitch count, Homer, so he's not going to get the ball a whole lot because he's not going to be in the game a whole lot. He is going to be operating with DeAndre Hopkins, so there won't be as much of a focus on him. I'm leaning Kamara. This has to be a flex, right? Kamara or Boyd. Boyd has an easier matchup against the Titans, who are bottom 5 in the league in pass yards allowed. Let's go Tyler Boyd. Jamar is still out. He's technically the fill-in wide receiver too, has an easier matchup. And even with half-point PPR, we're looking at a flex right now because you just gave me a running back and 3 wide receivers. So I'm going Tyler Boyd out of those 4. Second favorite would probably be Kamara. I just don't want to use Wilson with Mike White in there, but Mike White did spread the ball around a lot. So Boyd, Kamara, and Wilson are like 1A, 1B, and 1C. That's what I'm going with. Jelly of the Month says, thank you. No problem. Edward asking the same question, but full PPR. Pick 2 between Chris Godwin with the weather that I keep hearing about, Alvin Kamara, Jeff Wilson Jr., and Rachaad White. Jeff Wilson Jr. is a must-use here. Has to be. Going up against a Texans run defense that allows about 5 yards per carry. One of the worst in the league, and game script-wise, as long as the Dolphins don't beat the brakes off the Texans, which they could, although the secondary of the Texans is pretty decent. I think we've got an emphasis on the run because the secondary of the Texans is somewhat respectable. I think we have an emphasis on the run because the run defense of the Texans is horrible, and I think we have an emphasis on the run because game script-wise, when you're up a couple of possessions, you try and run the clock out via staying on the ground. So let's go to Jeff Wilson. If we're looking... The weather is such a wild card. Jeff Wilson, otherwise I'm between White and Godwin for my second option. I'm leaning Rachaad White because at least we know he's going to get some touches if the rain is really bad and he can get some checkdowns as well. Again, I keep mentioning that stat. 20 receptions in a very limited sample size sitting behind Leonard Fournette is impressive to me. Let's go Jeff Wilson, and then either Rachaad White or Chris Godwin would be my second best option. Kamara has a really tough matchup. Matt Solis, PPR, we're picking Dameon Pierce or Chris Godwin at flex. Tough one because I think Dameon Pierce could be phased out of the game if the Texans do go down a couple possessions like the betting odds say they will. I believe they're 14-point underdogs. Chris Godwin, I think we got to trust him to get the ball in his hands a couple times, even though the weather isn't great. It's not the best matchup, but PPR, I think we want a pass catcher for sure, and Dameon Pierce is more focused out of the backfield right now. Kills 5K said, thank you so much. No problem. Boyd or Hollywood? We're going Boyd, Tristan, because Hollywood is on a pitch count. He'll have limited time. I know he has a pretty nice matchup against the Chargers, but he's not going to have a whole lot of snaps. Boyd is the wide receiver, too, filling in and going up against the Titans secondary that allows a decent amount of yards. Debo or Mike Evans from Finstrom? Debo or Mike Evans? Evans with the weather. Debo will play against the Saints. Saints defense gives up a decent amount. I'm going to say let's trust Debo to get the ball in his hands. Godwin is the true wide receiver one in that lineup, in my opinion. What other questions we got, guys? I know I kind of just went through those pretty quickly. Edward, perfect. Isn't it likely that Andy Dalton may be overwhelmed by the 49ers pass rush and just dump checkdowns to Kamara? Edward, who are we choosing between here? You know, we can take that approach too. And Edward, if I like it when you guys kind of not challenge me, but, you know, say certain statements that may contradict what I've said, because that is a valid point. Maybe Andy Dalton gets overwhelmed and tries to just check it down. Maybe they run it through their best player, the Saints do, and Alvin Kamara. You know, keep in mind Michael Thomas is out, so it's pretty much Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, Juwan Johnson. That's kind of who we're looking at. And Kamara is a pass catcher, full point PPR. I'll take back my statement. Let's take Kamara over Godwin. I love Jeff Wilson regardless. So if we're choosing between Kamara and Rachaad White, we have two pass catchers. Kamara's more established. I think Jeff Wilson's a must start, Edward. I really do. Game script wise, going up against that weak rush defense, I hope you can kind of see what I'm saying with that. And a game where the Dolphins should win. Definitely going Jeff Wilson. I can't blame you if you want to take Kamara over Godwin and Rachaad White. So I'd go Jeff Wilson. Kamara / White is my second option, and then Godwin in the very last. Yeah, Edward, I would go with that. Folks, lineups are about to lock, so thank you so much for joining. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for constantly supporting this channel. It means the world to me. We'll have some more content coming out soon. A couple of live streams a week. YouTube shorts every day. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and let's go get that W in Week 12. Good luck to you all.